Welcome to the Parenting Puzzle Podcast with Dr. Daniela Owen, the podcast where we attempt to solve the parenting puzzle together.
To another edition of the Parenting Puzzle with Dr. Daniela Owen. I am super excited for this one. We're going to be addressing some really important topics. Hey, Dr. D, do you feel it in the air?
I feel the holiday season coming. It's actually been pretty chilly this week too, so it's really feeling seasonal.
Yeah, so we're in South Louisiana here, and we've been in the 40s twice this week. So that's when you know we're getting really close to the holidays. So we wanted to take some time, a little bit different format today. We don't have a guest, but really great content coming your way. Because even though the holiday season is super fun, it is a great time with the family and friends and uh, gratitude. There's still some challenges with it. So we wanted to spend about 15, 20 minutes today to give some tips and tricks to how to have a great holiday season, no matter what situation you're in. So I'll start it off with a question, if that's all right, Dr. D, and then we'll get into it.
Thanks, Jake. That would be great.
So one thing that I was thinking about, so the current economic climate, there's some things that I think are presenting some challenges that are a little bit different, right? Things just seem to cost a little bit more than usual, and times are tight for a lot of people across this country, right? So I guess my question would be if you're a family that just wants to have a great Christmas and have a great time, but maybe don't have the resources to go out and buy hundreds of dollars worth of presents for your kids and your family and friends, which I think a lot of people in that situation, including myself. Do you have any suggestions on how to navigate that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Jake, and I'm so glad you're asking this question right now because it is a sensitive time for a lot of people. I mean, their groceries are at a pretty all-time high. Eggs and milk, just the staples, not even the sort of luxury items that we might want to get. And for families who are trying to decide between groceries and holiday presents and fitting both in is tough. That is a really stressful circumstance. And even if that's not necessarily your circumstance, it's we're in a really consumer-based society right now. And so there's a lot of advertising that's encouraging kids to want stuff. It's encouraging adults to want stuff, right? And so, being mindful of that is really helpful during the holiday season. So my first answer is whether you believe me or not, I can assure you it's true. Kids want parents' time more than anything else. They just want to spend time with their families. You might not think it if you have a teenager who goes into their room and closes their door. But if you hang out with them and do stuff that they are interested in and want to do, they will be so happy to spend the time with you. Kids want to spend time with their parents. They want attention and time from their parents. And so time is not free, but time doesn't cost dollars per se. And so just realizing that making space and making time to be together as a family and do things that are not costly is a really, really important thing for parents to spend a little extra time and energy on figuring out what would work for your family. But that's a really good way to connect with kids over the holiday and have a really good holiday break. You don't have to go somewhere exciting or special or spend a ton of money on new presents. Just going around your home, pulling out things that you've done in the past together, or maybe now your kids are finally old enough to do and introducing them to a new game or puzzle or something, and then taking the time to do it together as a family. That is one of the most useful ways to spend your holiday currency, if you will.
I love that. Time is more valuable to even the kids than we think, right?
Totally.
And I have noticed the price of eggs. That's why I asked the question. It is everything is high. It's crazy. Just to piggyback off that question. So my 8-year old, right? He sees other kids, right, getting X, Y, and Z. And maybe he can't get that or doesn't get something quite as extravagant, right? Talking to his friends at school. How do so if there's a disappointment there, how would you suggest parents handling that?
Great question. So I would start by validating. Yeah, I get that it feels disappointing. It's really hard when Jimmy comes to school with such and such, and it's so cool and you want it. And that's really not our family situation right now. And it can be financial, it could also be values, right? I mean, you might not want your kids to have a certain electronic device because you don't believe in having them have that device until they're older. Other families are cool with their younger kids having those kinds of things. And so it's okay to just say that's not our family's value to have that kind of thing. Um, and it's okay for you to want to check out Jimmy's and, watch it with him at school or do it with him at school, but we're not going to get that thing. And so just being really, really clear with them about different families do it differently, and this is how our family does it. And so bringing it back to the values, bringing it back to the connection of this is how our family does it, and then pivoting to something positive. And so, even though we're not going to get this, I know it's not quite as shiny and new, but that trampoline in the backyard is pretty fun. How about we go out there and you show me that backflip that you mastered last week, right? And now you're pivoting into spending time, giving them attention, focusing on something that they feel good about, or doing something that you enjoy together. Let's go build a fire and roast a marshmallow or two, right? Like doing something together and sharing the time so that you are focusing on the thing that does matter in your family or what you do value.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I see that with my boys. Like they are, I don't want to say desperate, but they really want my attention. They really want my time investment. So it's valuable currency to them. That makes perfect sense. I guess another one, I don't know, Dr. D, if this is completely like kid related, but I know even from personal experience that some people during this time of year, it's cold, maybe there's old memories that are coming up. It could be a time that's really happy, but for some people, it could be a time that could be lead to some sadness or blues and things like that. So if you have somebody, maybe it's a parent or even a kid that's really struggling with sadness or anxiety during this season, based on a previous experience or something like that, what are some thoughts or tips and tricks around that topic?
Great question. So I would say, first of all, change it up, right? So getting stuck in doing the same thing that may be associated with negative memories in the past is one way to kind of trigger those memories. So doing something to change it up, and so that can be everything from I have bad memories from sitting around the living room with, that was decorated in this way and, parents fighting or something like that. And it's like, so put the tree somewhere else, right? If you decorate with a Christmas tree or, mixing it up and doing decorations more outside than inside or inside than outside, like little small things that change it up are going to give a different feel. And if you stick with the same traditions that you had from childhood and then that you had, when your kids were younger and so forth, it's going to give it a very similar feel. So by changing it up, it's actually going to help make things feel a little bit different, and that can help.
I like that.
Getting plenty of sunlight during this time of year is really helpful. And if you're in a place where there isn't a lot of sunlight, getting one of those lamps, they sell them relatively inexpensively these days. And those lights and having some kind of equivalent to sunlight each day can really help with improving mood. There's some good research on that. Hydrate. I know we're not as thirsty in the winter as we are in the summer for water. And so we tend to hydrate less. Having adequate hydration actually makes our bodies feel better and it makes us feel better. So hydrating, nourishing yourself. In the winter, we tend to think of comfort foods, maybe less than fruits and veggies. We might want like chicken pot pie, mac and cheese, or something like that. But making sure if you're eating less vitamin-rich foods that you're maybe taking a vitamin supplement and getting adequate sleep but not too much sleep. So sometimes in the winter, we want to just hibernate. Actually, sleep science shows us that getting too much sleep can make us feel kind of lethargic and groggy. And then, of course, if we're getting too little sleep, we're going to be feeling kind of crummy. So, doing things, mental health and physical health are hand in hand. So, doing things that take care of your physical health during the season can actually really help with mental health. Um, and if you do have a tendency to feel kind of lower during this time of year, and it doesn't feel like those kinds of solutions are working, it could be a good time to reach out to a therapist and see if it's a time to do some therapy sessions and get some extra support. And there are lots of different ways to do that, from seeing someone in person to doing some kinds of different telehealths. And there are all kinds of mental health platforms these days that offer tips and tricks and apps that can all be really helpful ways to get extra support through the holiday season.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's about not forgetting about your health, right? Mentally and physically during this time of year. Don't just eat fruitcake.
Don't just eat fruitcake. But also, I love that you said it's not forgetting about your health, because,
Yeah,
a lot of us think about the holidays, and as parents, we think about, what am I doing for my kids? What am I doing for our kids? And you know what? It can be a time when well-intentioned parents actually stretch themselves too thin financially, and that makes you stressed, or like physically, emotionally, just doing too much to try to make it magical. And again, remembering it's that time that your kids really want. And what we also know from research is that quality is more important than quantity. So having them get to spend an hour with you over a weekend where you are totally not distracted, focused on them, really engaged, really present in the moment, is much better than spending 10 hours over the weekend when you're distracted, half it doing work, half online shopping, half whatever, and not really there present with them. And so time and quality over quantity, those are the things that are actually going to make your kids' holidays the best. And there are lots of ways to create new traditions that become yours and then you associate with a positive memory, right? So I think it's typical for us to think about, you know, old traditions or family of origin traditions or great grandparents traditions or whatever. But what are new traditions? What do you want to do? If you hate fruitcake, don't eat fruitcake. Make the new tradition cheesy broccoli or something. Like, there's
yeah,
no right or wrong way to do it, right? And so it's just about, if you want to have that kind of connection and you want to have that tradition, it doesn't have to be a tradition started by someone else. You and your kids can start it right here and now.
I love that. I love that. And talking about stretching thin, like I know there's research behind it, and I don't have specific numbers on me right now, but like parents getting into debt, credit card debt, things like that, then they're taking this debt into the new year because they felt the pressure to make this time of year extravagant, right? So now they felt excess stress during this time, right, in December. But then now it's bleeding into the first quarter of the new year, right, January, February, because they've got thousands of dollars of debt that maybe they didn't have to get if we would have just thought about it a little bit differently, right? So that point about time might be more a valuable gift. You can't unwrap it, but then that new pair of Jordans or whatever they see their friend Jimmy have, right? So just to pivot, and I'm not ashamed to do plugs on this podcast, especially you. I think you may have written a book on this topic.
I
Did I,
did.
did I hear that right?
So the best gift ever is a children's book that I wrote, and it really is literally about this. It's about focusing on the love between family and friends rather than material things during the holidays. And sending that message to your kids at a young age is also going to help them internalize that value and share that value and really feel it and really be able to focus on the things that, I don't want to use the word should, but that could matter more to us and that really will actually make us feel more fulfilled as people. And I really appreciate you bringing up this concept of getting into debt and feeling stressed, because the other thing that happens is the stress doesn't go away after the first quarter and you've paid off the credit card debt, because now, as the holidays come around that next year, you have to equal what you did the year before. You might have the thought, I need to equal that or even outdo myself. because that's the expectation. But if you set the expectation of, we're going to focus on family, we're going to focus on friends, and you can unwrap it, you just have to be creative, right? So you can, maybe you can do something like have a holiday game night and with games that you already have, and you can make little cards for each person and wrap them up, and they unwrap it and it's like a little token or a little gift card for a holiday game night. There are ways to do it that just take really simple, that could just take a few extra minutes of creativity on the part of parents, and like a post-it note or a small piece of paper that could make a really big difference for kids, because they still are getting the thing, they are having that experience of unwrapping, but it doesn't have to be an actual physical thing that you spent money on. It can be an experience, it could be your time, it could be your energy, it could be doing something together that they love. If your kid loves whittling sticks and that maybe isn't your favorite thing to do, but you're going to go and spend an hour with them whittling, you can go outside and find a great little twig and wrap it up and have them open it and be like, you got me for an hour. Let's go whittle. I guarantee if your kid loves that, they're going to be delighted with that gift. And so it just takes a little bit more time and creativity, but not really, because you'll spend the time shopping anyway, whether in stores or online. So just kind of a pivot from how you were thinking about things.
Sorry, I'll be honest with the people. I had to put my phone on the charger, so I have to change my spot here. I think it's interesting. I want to go back to what you said about, like, it's kind of like the endless cycle of, like, oh, we did this year, so now this year I have to take it up 10%, and the next year after that I got to take it, and it's like this snowball of debt and expectations. And how can we change that culture? So where can they get the book?
Oh, well, you can buy the book on Amazon. And you can also look up drdanielaowen.com on my website, and that'll just take you to all my books, and that's the fastest way to access everything. So please go to drdanielaowen.com, look under books, everything's there. So thank you for that, Jake. I'm bad at self-promotion. But the other thing is just thinking about kind of deeper ways to make this kind of connection. So doing things like volunteering with your kids is a really good way, instilling in them in an early age that there are people less fortunate, because we are all on a spectrum. So there's always going to be people more and less fortunate than us. And so being able to instill doing kind things for people who really need them is a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to do. If you're someone who, for example, likes getting toys for tots, taking your child to pick out the toys and then taking them to drop it off in the bin and letting them know, hey, this toy is going to a kid whose parents can't buy them toys, or who Santa isn't able to get toys for, right? That already at a young age is giving them that feeling of, that feels good for us as humans, as social creatures, that feels good for all of us. And so instilling that in them at a young age, or volunteering at a soup kitchen, or making packages of necessities for people who don't even have those kinds of items during this time of year, and choosing to spend your time, energy, and resources in that way really helps kids get some perspective. And that can be really, really helpful, especially if they're in an environment with peers like school or other outside activities where friends are showing up with the latest Jordans or the newest, hoverboard or whatever it is, and they're kind of looking around. If they know what it feels like to be able to give and care for other people, that's going to help counterbalance some of that disappointment around the material things.
I love that. We're actually doing that this weekend. We're going to a program that we do, and yep, he's going to be part of it, where families come and pick out toys for their kids when they can't afford it. So I completely agree with that. I think it changes their perspective of, hey, there's other people out there that really need our help, right? And that's kind of what we're supposed to do as humans, is help people. So you're the expert on this topic. We're going to call this section now, it's a new section name, The Last Word with Dr. D. Okay. So I'm going to just open the floor with you. We got the Speedster Squad hotline, and now we got the last word. We'll find a sponsor for that. Probably your Resilient Kids program. That'll be what it's called.
Okay.
The last word with Dr. D, Resilient Kids. Okay.
Okay.
What's the last word on this topic?
So my last word on this topic is truly that the best gift ever for kids during the holidays is spending quality time with family and friends. So giving them that experience, and you can be creative and find a way to wrap it up or not and just give your time to them. But that's what's going to make those holiday memories. That's what's going to stick with them through the years more than the newest this or the latest video game. Spending that time together, being cozy, being connected, being present, not being attached or distracted by other things, quality over quantity, being able to give them that gift of time. It's the best gift ever, and it will make your holidays happy together.
I love that because eventually they're going to forget about the toy. You know
They're
what
gonna
I'm saying?
outgrow it. They're gonna
Yeah,
outgrow it, but that memory lasts forever in their mind.
I love that. So I think that wraps us up for today.
Sounds good.
Um, Dr. D, I appreciate you as always of taking the time. I'll say self promotion. I guess we're not that great at that, but please, if you like this podcast, go ahead and leave us a review, a like, a comment. It really helps to get this. I strongly believe, and I'm sure Dr. D as well, that this is useful, easily applicable tools and resources that we really are passionate about getting into families. So like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We want to hear from this audience more. I know we want to try to get people on the hotline and on the show to ask Dr. D questions. So that's an opportunity that we extend to anyone that listens to reach out, either on Speedster Squad or on Dr. D's website or her YouTube, Dr. Danielle Owen. Go check her out. And more importantly, go buy the book.
Yeah,
What's
check
the
it
name of it?
out. Buy the book for your littles. And, the messages apply regardless of your age. So check out the book, check out our other podcast episodes, check out our YouTube channels. We have lots of tips and fun videos on there. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Bye, Dr. D.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review. It really helps us out and lets others discover the show.